When three bullies trapped Kareem behind the gym, they expected him to be afraid. But within moments, one was on the ground, and the others learned the hard way not to mess with the wrong kid. Most people barely noticed when Kareem Tolliver walked through the front doors of Millstone High in Lansing, Michigan. No grand welcome, no curious whispers, just another transfer student. Halfway through the semester, his backpack looked worn, his hoodie faded, and he moved with a quiet caution, the kind of silence you pick up from reading the room before ever speaking. It was a chilly Monday, snow slush still clinging to the sidewalks, and the morning bell cut sharply through the hallways. Kareem stopped at his locker, eyes scanning the rushing names and faces. He wasn't scared. He just knew the drill. Find your classes, don't make waves, keep to yourself. During first period math, a few students glanced at him when he entered. A girl in the corner whispered behind her hand, and the teacher just smiled, motioning toward an empty seat near the back before moving on. No introductions, no curiosity, only silence. Kareem didn't mind. He had learned that silence wasn't always bad. Back in Detroit, where he was from, silence often meant safety. He didn't wear flashy clothes or show off on purpose. His uncle called it moving invisible, something you learn in certain neighborhoods where drawing attention could get you jumped, or worse. But Millstone High wasn't Detroit. It was polished. Kids wore name brands, their haircuts looked like appointments. Their laughs were loud and confident, and they moved like they owned the place. No one said anything directly to Kareem, but he noticed how some glanced at his shoes, how a kid in gym class stared at his second-hand hoodie like it was stained. On his third day, Kareem ate lunch alone at a table near the back, tray holding spaghetti, a banana, and chocolate milk. Simple and quiet, he chewed slowly, watching and listening. That's when he heard the laugh. "Yo, what is that? You bring that from home or what?" Kareem looked up. A tall white boy in a varsity jacket stood a few feet away, smirking. That was Brock Simmons, football coach, captain, star tight end, and self-declared king of the junior class. Two other guys flanked him, grinning like they shared a private joke. Kareem didn't answer. "Man's eating like it's the Great Depression," Brock said loud enough for nearby tables to hear. Laughter broke out, though not everyone joined in enough did. Kareem kept his eyes on his food. He didn't want trouble, not now. One of Brock's friends, a short kid with a crew cut, leaned over. "You hear me, man? You deaf or just slow?" Kareem looked at him briefly, then blinked, grabbed his milk, and stood up. "I'm done." He walked away, no insults, no scene. Just left the tray and headed toward the hallway, but it didn't end there. Later that afternoon, someone shoved his books off his desk in science class. No one claimed responsibility, and the teacher didn't notice. After school, someone wrote "charity case" on his locker in dry erase marker. It wiped off easily, but the mark remained. Kareem went home quiet that night. He took the No. 12 bus to the edge of town, where his Uncle Jim sat behind a tire shop. Inside, the smell of sweat and leather hit him before the bell above the door even rang. Uncle Reggie looked up from wrapping a fighter's hands. "You all right?" "Yeah," Kareem muttered. "Just school." Reggie didn't press. He nodded once, then gestured toward the mats. "Let it out. That's what they're for." Kareem said nothing. He changed quickly, stepped onto the mat, and hit the pads like they meant something personal. Hooks, counters, pivots. Clean, fast, focused. He didn't need to brag about his skills. He just needed to remember who taught him to never let anger lead. But one small moment in the cafeteria set off a chain of events Kareem never intended. The lunch incident should have been nothing. Just a dumb joke. A quick jab. One of those things people forget by the next class. But for Brock Simmons, it wasn't about the joke. It was about the reaction, or lack thereof. Kareem hadn't looked scared. He hadn't flinched. He just left, and that made Brock itch. By Friday, Kareem's name was bouncing around the locker rooms. The new kids got attitude. Someone said, doesn't talk, just stares. They said it like it was a crime. In gym class, Kareem was paired with Brock for basketball drills. The coach barked pairings, and the boys lined up. Kareem didn't flinch when Brock threw the ball hard against his chest. "Come on, Tolliver, show me what you got." Brock challenged. Kareem dribbled once, then twice. "We just passing, right?" Kareem asked. "Yeah, just passing," Brock replied, pretending to be casual. But when Kareem passed the ball back, he snapped it sharply into Brock's chest, dead center, and the thud echoed through the gym. Brock blinked in surprise while the other boys snickered. "Dang," someone muttered. Brock forced a tight smile. "All right, cool." That was when he decided he didn't like Kareem. From then on, things got petty snide comments in the halls, gum stuck in Kareem's locker. Once, someone tripped him near the vending machines. Kareem never reacted or tattled. He just kept moving. But in a place like Millstone, silence was fuel, and Brock was holding the match. Lunchtime turned into a stage for Brock's loud jokes aimed at Kareem from across the cafeteria. "You from Detroit, right? You bring your bulletproof vest or leave it at home." Brock shouted, and the table burst into laughter. Some kids looked uncomfortable but didn't speak up. Kareem just stared at his sandwich. One of Brock's friends, Logan Ferris, leaned over and whispered, "Dude, I think he might actually be crazy. Look at him. Doesn't even blink." "He's not crazy," Brock said loud enough for others to hear. "He's just another hood story waiting to happen." That jab hit Kareem hard. After school, he quickened his pace to the bus stop. He'd seen how things escalated before, but this time it felt personal. At home, Uncle Reggie noticed the tension in Kareem's jaw. "You holding something back?" Reggie asked. Kareem nodded slowly, struggling to speak. Reggie put down his coffee. "Sometimes holding back is harder than swinging, you know. You're not here to teach anyone a lesson. You're here to graduate, build something." He paused, then added, "But if someone backs you into a corner, you don't let them walk over you either." Kareem said nothing. He didn't need to. Back at school, rumors started swirling. Kareem had a record, got kicked out of his old school, fought a teacher in 8th grade. None of it was true, but no one cared. In history class, Brock leaned over from behind. "You ever seen a real fight, Tolliver?" Kareem didn't turn around. "Yeah, I mean up close, not on TV. Blood on the floor kind." Brock smirked. "You don't want that kind. Is that a threat?" Kareem finally glanced over his shoulder, warning. Brock said with a slight fade in his smile. The next day, Brock made a move. After 6th period, he caught Kareem outside the gym. Kareem had headphones in, walking toward the back parking lot where the late buses waited. Brock and 2 friends followed quietly. "Yo, Tolliver." Kareem pulled out an earbud. "You think you're tough? No, you act like it. I act like I want to be left alone. You don't get to choose that." Kareem's shoulders tensed. "You done?" Brock stepped closer. "Not yet." The bell rang, and the hallway filled with noise, but the moment stayed frozen. Brock didn't realize he was pressing on something trained not to snap, but to strike. Friday came with a cold wind cutting through Millstone's parking lot. Students hurried to buses or rides. Kareem stayed behind, helping Mr. Patel, the custodian, stack old desks near the side exit. He wasn't trying to impress anyone, just wanted to avoid the crowd. But Brock had planned this. By the time Kareem rounded the back of the gym, the lot was mostly empty. A few cars, no teachers in sight. Brock stood near the dumpsters with Logan and Ty, all pretending to be casual, hands in pockets like they were just hanging out. Kareem spotted them and kept walking, backpack slung over one shoulder, pace steady. "Hey," Brock called out, stopping about 10 feet away. "What, you think you're smart or something, just ignoring me every time I speak? I didn't come here for you." Brock stepped closer. "You didn't come here at all. You got dropped here." Kareem narrowed his eyes. "What do you want?" Logan circled to the side slowly. Ty leaned back, chewing gum. acting like nothing was wrong. "I want to know what makes you so special," Brock said. "You act like you're better than everyone sitting by yourself, staring at people. I'm just minding my business." "No, you're disrespecting mine." Kareem looked him in the eye. "You got something to prove, prove it." That's when Logan lunged forward, shoving Kareem in the chest hard. It wasn't smooth or practiced, just pure aggression. Kareem didn't flinch or hit back. He stood firm, voice low. Brock laughed. "Go on, Logan." Logan moved again. This time, a wild swing shot toward Kareem's shoulder, but it missed. Kareem had already stepped inside the arc of the punch. With a swift turn and a clean sweep, Logan hit the ground hard, the impact echoing sharply. What the tie began, but didn't finish. Kareem's gaze cut to Brock. "Don't," but Brock wasn't stopping. He lunged, aiming high, thinking his bulk would land the blow. But in this moment, bulk didn't count. Kareem ducked under, turned, and drove an elbow into Brock's ribs. Just enough force to knock him off balance. Ty stepped back. "Yo, chill, man. 12 seconds, that's all it took." Brock dropped to one knee, panting. Logan slumped beside a dumpster, eyes wide. Ty had his hands raised like he'd just watched someone flip a truck. Kareem didn't grin, didn't taunt. He just stood there. That's when Mr. Langford, the assistant principal, appeared around the corner. "What's going on?" Brock scrambled up. "He jumped us." Kareem stared. "You for real? I didn't touch anyone, man. He's lying." Langford looked at Kareem, then the others. No bruises, no blood. But tension, thick and heavy. Kareem's fists weren't clenched. His breathing was even. He looked calmer than any of them. "Come with me," Langford said. They walked to the office in silence. In the waiting area, Kareem sat across from Brock. Logan had already called his dad. Ty kept his mouth shut. Brock muttered nonstop. "He's done. Dead." Kareem didn't even glance over. Inside, Langford stared at Kareem. "Want to explain what happened?" Kareem spoke evenly, honestly. No lies, no spin. Langford listened, leaned back. "You're lucky no one's bleeding." Kareem stayed quiet. "You know we have zero tolerance, right?" "I didn't start it." Langford sighed. "That's not the point. It's about who ends it." Kareem looked down. "Then maybe ask why no one ever tried to stop it." Langford paused, caught off guard. "But once it's all over and a teacher shows up, Kareem won't walk away as some hero." By Monday, the fight had become whispers, glances, and hallway silence. People moved aside, not with respect, but with unease. He wasn't just the quiet new kid anymore. He was something else now, a warning. In first period, the kid behind him moved to another seat. At lunch, no one said anything when Kareem walked in. No jokes, no greetings. Just silence, and somehow that silence screamed. He took his usual back seat, set his tray down, and ate alone. Same routine, but the vibe had changed. Before, they ignored him. Now, they avoided him. Across the cafeteria, Brock sat surrounded by friends, retelling the tale like he was the victim. "Dude's crazy," Brock said, "came at us like some action movie, took Logan out like Bruce Lee or something. People don't do that unless they've been in real fights." Ty stayed quiet. "Logan didn't even show up that day." A girl raised her eyebrows. "But you guys circled him, right?" Brock snapped. "No, we were just talking. He lost it." She didn't buy it, but didn't argue. In gym, Kareem wasn't assigned a partner. Coach Rollins just told him, "Shadow the drills today." No reason, no explanation, just orders. Kareem didn't protest. After school, he skipped the gym. Instead, he took the long way home, past the corner store, through an alley he hadn't walked since moving. He needed space, time to think. At home, Uncle Reggie was watching an old UFC replay. Kareem dropped his bag and sank into the couch. Tough day. Reggie asked, "People acting different now. I thought maybe they'd appreciate it." "Nope," Kareem said. "Just didn't think they'd look at me like I'm dangerous." Reggie turned off the TV. Son, when you stand up for yourself and win, people see power, and power shakes the weak, especially the loud ones. Kareem stared at the floor. I didn't even go all out. I held back. I know. Reggie nodded, but they don't care. You showed that boy something about himself, and he ain't ready to face it. What do I do now? Keep steady. Remember why you're there. Kareem didn't reply, because deep inside, part of him wished he hadn't held back. At school, things only got weirder. A few teachers gave him long, thoughtful looks. One guidance counselor even called him in. Just want to check on how you're adjusting, she said. Mid-year transfers are rough. Kareem nodded. She smiled, a bit too forced. Do you ever feel angry? He looked at her. Why, no reason, just checking. He got up and left before she could finish her next sentence. That night a post appeared on social media. A grainy shot of the fight behind the gym. The caption read, "He thinks it's a movie. You scared yet?" It came from Brock's burner account. The replies were all over the place. Yo, he floored Logan like he weighed nothing. Don't play with that dude. Nah, something's off about him. Why is he even here if he's gonna act like that? Kareem scrolled through every line, not once, not twice. Enough times to feel something tighten deep in his chest. He wasn't ashamed of what happened, but now the story wasn't his anymore. When he arrived at school the next morning, 2 security guards stood at the front entrance. They didn't usually post there. In homeroom, the principal's voice buzzed over the intercom. All students involved in last week's incident are currently under review. A formal hearing will be held Thursday. Kareem didn't flinch. He just kept looking forward, a hearing. Now it was official, but the storm hadn't passed. Not until Brock twisted the story. Brock Simmons didn't know what losing felt like. Not in class, not on the field, and definitely not in front of others. That fight did more than bruise his ribs. It cracked his image, and for someone like Brock, that hurt more than any punch. So he did what people like him do when they lose control. He lied. He started dropping hints to teachers, throwing out lines about not feeling safe around Kareem. Then came the whispers. Kareem had been kicked out of 2 schools. He'd broken a kid's nose back in middle school. He carried a blade in his backpack. None of it true, none of it questioned. The video Brock posted kept spreading. The footage was short, low quality, and ended right before Logan took the first swing. But in those brief seconds, Kareem looked cold, calculated, like the one who started it. Brock added captions like, "Look at how he moves. This ain't normal." He threw in hashtags, #millstone threat, #shouldn't be here. The replies took a darker tone. He's not like us. Bet he learned that in Javi, kick him out before he does worse. Kareem read every word. He didn't comment. He didn't defend himself, but staying silent has its own price. By Tuesday, the school called his mom. By Wednesday, the district had scheduled a formal hearing. He had to appear with a guardian. Reggie took the day off work. The conference room was bare. Plain walls and a large rectangular table in the middle. One side held Principal Langford, a school board member, and the head of student discipline. On the other side sat Kareem, Reggie, and a folder Reggie had made Kareem fill with written statements, just in case. Brock didn't show. He didn't have to. His version of the story was already floating around the room. Langford cleared his throat. We've received multiple concerns from students, staff, and parents. It's our job to assess whether Kareem Tolliver presents an ongoing safety risk. Reggie leaned in. My nephew is no danger to anyone. He's trained in self-defense. He didn't look for trouble. He tried to walk away. He warned them. The board member peered over his glasses. Is it true he has combat training? Reggie didn't blink. Yes, but that training isn't about violence. It's about discipline. It's about knowing how to avoid hurting someone. One of the assistant principals spoke. There's a video going around. It doesn't show how the fight began. Of course it doesn't. Reggie cut in. It's edited. The room went quiet. Then Kareem spoke. They came at me. I didn't throw the first punch. I didn't even want to be there. The board member tapped a folder in front of him. Yet we've received reports accusing you of physical aggression. So what was I supposed to do? Kareem asked, calm but clear. Let them beat me. Silence again. Reggie leaned back. This isn't just about a fight. It's about the picture you've painted of my nephew. You see a big, quiet black kid defending himself, and you assume he's the problem. Langford shifted in his chair. The board member scribbled something on a notepad. No verdict came that day. They said they needed more time. Outside, Reggie let out a slow breath. You did good. Doesn't feel like it. They heard you. They may not say it out loud, but they did. That night, Kareem barely touched dinner. He sat on the back steps staring at the sky. Everything felt upside down. He'd done the right thing, and still ended up on trial. He started to wonder if there even was a right way to be. But the shift didn't come from him. It came from someone Kareem never saw coming. Thursday morning arrived thick with tension. The verdict from the hearing hadn't been announced yet, but it felt like Millstone had already made up its mind. Kareem sensed it the second he walked through the doors. He wasn't seen as a student anymore, but as gossip wrapped in sneakers. He drifted through the halls like mist, there but untouchable. Some kids stared, others whispered, many just avoided his eyes. By lunchtime, his usual seat in the back felt colder than before. Kareem barely touched his lunch. Halfway through his apple, someone slid into the chair across from him. A pale girl with cropped auburn hair and oversized glasses, quiet type. Kareem recognized her from a few classes, always drawing, always keeping to herself. Her name was Delaney Foster. No greetings. She leaned forward and whispered, I saw everything. Kareem looked up, confused. Behind the gym, I was there. Didn't mean to be. I was sketching the dumpsters for an art project. I didn't speak up cause I didn't want to get involved. But this hearing, it's not right. Kareem studied her. Why now? Because if they expel you over Brock's lie, then I'm to blame too, for staying silent. He hesitated, unsure if she was serious. You're not playing me. No, she said firmly. I already talked to the assistant principal. I'll be at the next hearing. That evening, when Reggie came home, Kareem told him everything. She's gonna testify. You trust her. I'm not sure, but she sounded real. Reggie nodded slowly. Sometimes the right folks stay quiet, until being silent costs too much. Friday's follow-up hearing felt different. Delaney sat at the table's end, hands folded, voice a little shaky, but her message clear. They surrounded him. 3 against 1, Logan threw the first punch. Kareem only defended himself. He warned them more than once. I saw it all. The energy in the room shifted. Even Langford stopped taking notes. And why didn't you say anything sooner? The board member asked. Delaney shook her head. I was scared. But that's not a good enough reason. Her voice cracked slightly on the last word. 15 minutes later, the room was dismissed. Kareem and Reggie stepped into the lot, cold wind biting through their coats. She didn't have to do that. Kareem said, no. Reggie replied, but she did. The next morning, the decision came via email. Kareem Tolliver will not face disciplinary action. Evidence confirms he acted in self-defense. Reggie printed the message and pinned it on the fridge. Still, even though the case was closed, Kareem knew the school hadn't gone back to normal. That next week, everything seemed quieter. No side comments, no shoulders bumped in the hall. Brock didn't say a word, or even glance Kareem's way. Logan came back and kept his head low. He picked a new lunch table. One afternoon, as Kareem closed his locker, Delaney passed by. She didn't speak, just gave a small wave and kept walking. He smiled faintly. Not every moment needed words, but something in the air had shifted. Not just around Kareem, but everywhere. 2 freshmen stood up for a classmate getting picked on. Outside the gym, a teacher actually intervened when someone made a crude remark. In classrooms, subtle changes, tiny but noticeable. Still, even with justice, Kareem carried more than bruises. When the final bell of the semester rang, the building burst into noise. Backpacks thrown over shoulders, lockers slammed, winter break plans echoing off the walls. But none of it felt normal to Kareem. He lingered by his locker, letting the crowd move past him. No more whispers, no threats, no hearing, but peace. That was another thing entirely. He'd made it through the chaos. But survival doesn't always mean recovery. As he left, Miss Curtis, his English teacher, called out, "Hey Kareem, wait a sec." He turned. "Yeah, there's a student-run assembly tomorrow. One of the speakers dropped out, and we were wondering if you'd consider speaking." He froze. "You mean, like, in front of the whole school?" She offered a gentle smile. "Only if you feel up to it. I just think they should hear from you. Not the version people have been talking about." Kareem didn't respond right away. He just gave a small nod and kept walking. That night, he sat on his bedroom floor, notebook open, pen in hand. He stared at the blank page for almost an hour, then wrote, "I didn't ask to be here, but I'm not going anywhere either." Next morning, auditorium buzzed with chatter, lights low, students restless, teachers at the back with arms crossed. Kareem waited behind the curtain until they called his name. He stepped forward slowly, no paper, no script, just his voice. "Since I arrived, people have called me all kinds of names. Quiet. Strange, even dangerous. Some of you probably still aren't sure what to think of me." There were a few uneasy chuckles in the crowd. "I didn't show up here looking for a fight. All I wanted was to finish high school like everyone else, to get through the day without any trouble." He glanced around. Silence in the room felt thick, but focused. "I'm not here to pretend I'm perfect. I've messed up. I've gotten angry. I've felt pain. But if the only version of me you know is the one someone else told, then you never actually knew me." The gym stayed quiet. "I'm not from this place. I come from a city where survival means keeping your head down, where you learn early when to speak up and when to stay silent. But around here, I've realized silence can just give people room to speak louder." He paused, then gestured toward the teachers. "I appreciate the ones who listened, and the ones who didn't, because I'm still here. You didn't run me off." In the middle rows, Delaney sat quietly, listening with a still expression. Kareem lifted his gaze again. "What I'm trying to say is, don't rush to define people. You don't know their story, or what they've carried to get this far. And maybe next time, instead of mocking, shoving, or posting lies, try asking." He stepped back. The mic clicked off. Silence. Then one person clapped, then another. It grew, not loud or over the top, but sincere. That day, something shifted at Millstone High. Not everyone changed, but a few did, and sometimes that's all it takes to begin something better. Later that day, as Kareem crossed the courtyard, a younger student stopped him. "You really know how to fight?" Kareem gave a small shrug. "I train so I'm always prepared." The kid smiled. "Can you show me?" Kareem thought for a second. "You sure it's not about hurting people?" The kid nodded. "I just don't want to feel afraid anymore." Kareem gave a slight smile. "All right. First rule, stand tall. Even when shrinking feels safer." They walked together toward the gate, not as coach and student, but just two kids figuring out how to keep going. Sometimes the toughest fights aren't physical. They're the ones where you have to prove you belong in a world that keeps shutting you out. If this story meant something to you, subscribe to the channel. There are more stories worth telling.